Hey, what's going on everybody? With the recent changes to Bone Spirit, it's taken the skill from a D tier ability all the way up to an S tier ability. So with this build, we're going to focus on casting huge Bone Spirits that's going to be pumping out damage that's going to rival Hoda Barbs. Utilizing the new aspect as well as the rework to the Bone Spirit, our primary stat focus will reach 100% critical strike chance and to obtain as much maximum essence as possible, since Bone Spirit drains all of our essence upon cast, but does bonus multiplicative damage based on how much essence we had upon cast. Like all of my builds, I have a link down in the description so you can follow along or use it to build your character if this looks good to you. So let's hop right on in. Since Book of the Dead's up here, we'll do this first. Sacrifice the Skirmishers for critical strike chance, the Shadow Mages for essence, and the Iron Golem for critical strike damage. On our helm, we're going to go with Shielding Storm because it's going to make it so Bone Storm is going to give us a barrier. It's going to make us extremely tanky because we're going to be very close to mobs. Because Bone Spirit has a very slow travel time and we no longer get penalized for casting at close range. So that was one of the huge changes they made to Bone Spirit, and it's going to make it so Bone Spirit becomes a viable skill to use now. Blood Artisan's Curious for the chest because it gives you free Bone Spirits every time you pick up 5 Blood Orbs. Now we need ways to spawn Blood Orbs, and this build has 3 ways to get Blood Orbs. So it's going to be very easy to get these and just get free Bone Spirits that doesn't cost us anything, and ultimately is going to be generating us more essence for our actual casted Bone Spirits. On our gloves, we're going to have Sacrificial. Since we are sacrificing our minions, we might as well get as much bang for our buck out of getting rid of our skeletons. On our pants, we're going to go with a Balmer, and this is going to make it so whenever you consume a corpse, which happens with Corpse Explosion, you're going to have a 30% chance to spawn a Blood Orb. So this is our first of 3 of ways to actually spawn Blood Orbs. On our boots, now you have 2 choices here. If you need essence and you're finding you're not having enough essence generation, go with the aspect of adaptability. Most likely, you don't need that one. Otherwise, you can go with the Windstrider aspect, so critical strikes, which we're trying to get 100% critical strike anyways, is going to increase your movement speed by 16% for 6 seconds. Choose whichever one you want. There are other boots that you can also choose. It's up to you. The boots is kind of like a free-for-all. You can choose whatever you want on your boots. Adaptability is one of them. I would actually choose Windstriker myself if I was actually choosing between these, but if you are having issues with essence generation, then adaptability is what you're going to want to pick. For our weapon, we have the new aspect, which is Shattered Spirits. Casting Bone Spirit launches 18 bone splinters in all directions, dealing 400% multiplicative increased damage and generating 6 essence per enemy hit. Now this is why I said you don't need adaptability, and you might as well just go with the Windstriker because you're going to be getting your essence back insanely fast, like stupid amounts of fast. And you'll see later on in the skill tree that we're going to be getting even more essence back for free just for casting Bone Spirit, which takes all of our essence away. So it kind of works with itself. On our amulet, we're going to go with Grasping Veins because it has increased critical strike chance and critical strike damage. It's a no-brainer for anything that uses Corpse Tendril. On our ring, we're going to go Aspect of Serration, which is going to increase our ossified essence, so it's going to make us do even more damage. We're going to have Ring of Sacrilegious Soul, which is going to auto cast Corpse Explosion every 1 second, so you don't even need to worry about actually pressing the button. It just happens every second anyways. And then finally, we're going to have Lidless Wall, and this is going to increase your maximum essence, your maximum life, and it's going to allow you to have basically permanent uptime on your Bone Storm. So if you hit an enemy that's outside of your Bone Storm, it'll spawn more Bone Storms, which is going to keep your barrier up, it's going to keep your critical strike chance up, it's just going to keep all of your damage and survivability just rolling throughout the entire dungeon. On your weapon, at first, you're actually going to use Sapphire because it's going to do critical strike damage to crowd-controlled enemies, which we're going to be doing with Corpse Tendrils. On your armor, you're going to go with Ruby, and on your jewelry, put in whatever you need to cap out your resistances, and then finally work on armor after that. I built the construct. I mean, this is all subject to change because we don't actually know how good or bad the constructs are. Hopefully they are good since it is the seasonal mechanic, but we will find out literally in like 2 days. But for this one I did Tempest because it shoots out a electrical charge that bounces whenever they die, which is kind of cool. I put on where this one gives it Vulnerable, shoots out 10 of them, and gives you free Shaco buff of +4 to all skills So that's pretty nice. I don't know what the actual cast time is on the recast time is on Tempest. If it's not short enough, we'll change this out with something else. Gyrate is actually pretty cool. It makes it so the construct actually spins around doing a bunch of damage. So I used volume of support to increase its size so it gets 50% larger. Efficiency support so that it gets you 15% critical strike chance to all enemies that were hit, and register damage so that whenever they die, they explode for fire damage for free. All right, on to the skill tree. So we're going to have Hemorrhage because this is our second way of generating blood orbs, and all the way up to Acolyte's Hemorrhage because attack speed will allow us to generate more blood orbs faster. 3 points in Unliving Energy to increase our maximum essence. 3 points in Hued Flesh so we have a higher chance to spawn a corpse. 1 point in Corpse Explosion up to Blighted Corpse Explosion. Remember, Corpse Explosion is going off every second for free anyways. You might as well just get the free damage from the puddle. All this does is do a little bit of extra damage, but if they're outside of its radius, it does 0 damage to them. So you might as well have the puddle, so if a mob walks into it, they're just taking damage for free. 3 points in Grim Harvest, we can generate more essence every time one explodes. 3 points in Fueled by Death for the 9% multiplicative increased damage after popping a corpse. 1 point in Decrepify to Abhorrent Decrepify for the cooldown reduction. 3 points into Amplify Damage, since we are cursing enemies anyways, might as well get the 12% multiplicative damage on that. Corpse Tendrils up to Blighted Corpse Tendrils, and this is our third way of spawning blood orbs. So it's a 35% chance on each enemy that it hits to spawn a blood orb. So it can spawn multiple blood orbs. Technically, it can spawn a blood orb off of every single enemy if the stars align, but that's probably not going to happen. Anyways, if we find out that Embalmers and Hemorrhage together is enough that we don't actually need Blighted Corpse Tendril, then we can go down to Plague Corpse Tendrils that have guaranteed vulnerability, in which case that's when you would go and you would switch your Sapphire out for an Emerald. But we'll see whenever the season actually comes along and how it actually is going to work out. 5 points into Bone Spirit. This is the core of the build. Bone Spirit uses all of your essence upon cast, which is why we want extra essence, because its damage is increased by 4% multiplicative for each point of essence spent upon casting Bone Spirit. So 4% times 100 is 400%. 4% times 200 is now 800%. So if you have 200 essence, you can pump out an 800% bonus damage Bone Spirit. That's why this could actually rival Hoda Barbs in terms of damage. So we can actually go out and one-shot bosses like they do. As you can see here, it's a 12-second cooldown. So with Enhanced, it actually reduces 7 seconds off of it, making it a 5-second cooldown. With Decrepify, we're going to get more cooldown reduction, and on our gear, we have cooldown reduction as well. So you can actually effectively shoot off a Bone Spirit every 1 to 2 seconds. And with Dreadful Bone Spirit, it increases your essence generation of 30% over the next 4 seconds. Now it's not 30 essence, it's 30%. So if you have 200 essence, that's 60 essence over 4 seconds. Plus you're getting all of the essence from Shattered Spirit, which we have on our weapon, which is shooting off all of the bone splinters, which is just generating more essence. So ultimately you're going to be generating way more essence than you actually need to. So you're going to be just pumping out so much damage so fast. And you're going to be generating your resource faster than Hoda Barbs were. So overall, we are going to become the new Hoda Barbs. They're not putting Bone Spirit as high of a pedestal as they want to because everyone's focusing on Charge Barbarian. They're sleeping on Bone Spirit. Bone Spirit's about to become the meta build for Season 3. Every single point into this tree right here. So Serration gives us more critical strike chance. Compound Fracture gives us increased damage after critical striking 10 times. Evulsion gives us damage on vulnerable enemies, which we're getting from our pet. Also, possibly we'll be getting it from Plague Corpse Tendrils later on if we're generating enough blood orbs. And Rapid Ossification makes it so the more essence we spend reduces the cooldown of our bone skills. We didn't need this when it came to Bone Spear. However, for Bone Spirit, we're using all of our essence, so this actually becomes one of the most crazy passives that we can take. Down here, 3 points of standalone, so we can get the damage reduction, and 3 points into Memento Mori, so we can get the 60% bonus off of the sacrifice. Bone Storm down to Supreme Bone Storm for the critical strike chance, and finally, Ossified Essence. Every bone build out there is going to use Ossified Essence because each essence points above 50 upon cast, increase your damage by 0.5%. Now, if we have 200 essence, that's a very, very large amount of bonus damage. And that gets increased off of our ring, which gives us increase critical strike damage by 1% per essence up to 40%. So 40% increase critical strike damage of bone skills because of that ring paired with our key passive. All right, onto the Paragon board. So it's a very standard Paragon board when it comes to bone builds. There's not too much variance in them, which also makes so you can switch between Bone Spirit and Bone Spear quite easily. So first board, as you can see, sacrificial. We're sacrificing our minions. This is just going to give us more damage because we don't have minions, as well as making all of the blue nodes 150% stronger. Second board, we have Bone Graft with Essence. And it's going to make it so we do increase critical strike damage. Make sure you grab all the nodes I have here. It's going to just maximize all of your damage output. Third board is going to be Scent of Death with Control. So you get the 20% multiplicative increased damage to stunned enemies, as well as damage to crowd controlled targets. Fourth board is actually going to be Flesh Eater with Corporeal. It's going to make it so, again, you do 10% increased physical damage. Bone Spirit is physical, and you're going to get the 150% bonus to all of the blue nodes, which is your damage to elites, as well as a little bit of resist all. Again, get all of the nodes I have in here. It's going to maximize your damage. Final board is going to be Bloodbath with Territorial. This is the only board we're not actually grabbing the notable node in here. We're only grabbing the glyph spot and coming up here to grab the damage while healthy. So this one is going to make it so we do more damage to close targets and take less damage from close targets. So really good node to have, probably one of the best in the game. And this is a really good board to throw it on because there's so many close dexterity nodes that you don't actually need to spend a lot of points to path over to all of them. So that is the entire build. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to drop a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys all in Season 3. Have a nice day.